I told you. Don't get too comfy.
Hello, guys. I've made it up to Ohio. This is my favorite Steel Timbersports competitor, Grant Foreman, and figured we'd just do a little interview.
Sure.
And, you guys just hear somebody else talk besides me. So,
They'll probably be relieved.
I guess the first thing I want to ask is, what started all the chainsaw stuff?
Well, the chainsaw started as a necessary evil for the timber sports stuff. So honestly, I got my start in the competing world in the axe side of things.
Oh,
and
you
then
started
into
with
the
the
actual
axe.
hand sawing. So when I started to get a little out of shape in my 30s, and things slowed down a little bit, started to put on a few pounds, I decided I was going to chop wood, and that was going to keep me in shape. So I did that for a while, and somebody recommended, they're like, oh, you ought to go try that Paul Bunyan show over in Ohio. Go give that thing a shot and see how you do. So I bought me an axe online, went to the show, and right before I was getting ready to chop, he actually has passed away since then, but Craig, guy that used to compete over there, he said, why don't you try this axe instead of that one?
Oh.
And he's like, just keep it out of the dirt. So I used it, and I'm telling you, just like you experienced, the first swing with that was just, went right to the handle, and I'm like, oh. So here I am up on a stage, and I'm beating the crap out of this 8x8. I got my, my old boots on, a steel toes, no chainmail, no protection. Didn't even nail my stand down to the stage. So I start pounding on it from one side. I'm used to putting in 20, 30 licks on one side and then turning. And because I'd only chopped a handful of blocks, and they're mostly dry and craft. So everybody's yelling at me, turn. And I almost knocked the thing completely off the stage there.
Oh.
Before I actually turned to cut it. Well, I cut it. It was 29.99 seconds. I remember the time, which since then I've improved a little bit on that.
Yeah, you're getting through in about 7 seconds, aren't you?
I've chopped them in 8.5 or 9.
8.5 or 9.
So
Okay,
I got a little bit quicker. But that first experience was just, you catch the fever.
Gotcha.
And some friends of ours that were local, they were like, oh, you got to come to this show in Chardon, and you got to come to this show. You definitely have to go to Webster Springs and see that. So I started getting into these things and started slowly doing the chopping stuff. And the standing block is natural for me. That's the one where the block is standing.
Right.
And you're standing.
Yeah.
That was a natural one for me. And from splitting wood, the underhand was pretty natural. The springboard still isn't natural for me, jumping up on the board. I'm still not comfortable up there.
That's wild.
But I started to pick those up and do, pretty decent at them. And then the next step is you've got to be able to handle the manual sawing as well as the chainsaws. And so I started to get into the chainsaws, and I had, operated before, just like you. I did firewood. And I used to trim trees when I was, college job when I was younger. So I got into the chainsaw world and actually just operating, but then I'm not one that I don't just want to run the saw. If something goes wrong with it, I don't want to standing there with my hands in my pocket. So we started learning about them. My neighbor Eric Nickel, he and I got that bled right into that, because I was having trouble with the saw one time, and Mandy's brother's like, call Eric and see what. And I'm like, Eric, can you help me? And we talked a lot before that, but we weren't good friends or anything. And he stopped over and we took a look at the saw, and he's like, oh, you got to turn the low end a little bit. Turn the high. You're a little rich. And he fiddled with it, and sure enough, saw was running good. And I'm like, oh.
Wow, brilliant.
Voila. So I'm like, Eric, this summer, I am going to learn, or this winter, sorry, I'm going to learn about chainsaws, and you're going to teach me.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time in his shop that winter, and I'm studying, I'm watching, trying to get everything, just like you're doing. I'm trying to get everything I can. Yeah. And I went
hungry for it.
I went from a couple chainsaws to a barn full of chainsaws, and much like the path you're on, I started learning how to do some reporting and some of that. But mainly, I'm proficient at maintaining my saws and making sure that they're running where they should be. Yeah. To be able to compete with them. So what saw did you start out with? Was your first one that you either bought that was running good, or you built yourself that was running really stellar? My chainsaw career started with the stock saw is a 661 in the steel competition. So I had some, homeowner saws, and then I got that one and just how it ran. So I used that to practice for the stock saw. But then as far as picking up saws, a good friend of mine in New York, Chris Sikora, he did a lot of chainsaw racing. And he's like, "Here, take this saw home with you." It was a piped 460, so could compete in the 5 cube clay. He's like, "Take this home with you. Run the heck out of it." It was a gas racer, and it really fun saw to run. Very reliable, and I took that. I probably made hundreds of practice runs with it, and just to get comfortable with the racing aspect of things. It was fast enough to do that. It couldn't compete with the alcohol saws, but it was good enough to get me moving. So that was the one that I first fell in love with. And then slowly I started to migrate towards some more expensive and more powerful race saws, and I came across a Bertrand saw, a 3120, that I got my hands on, and that was the first one that was a very competitive saw. It needed a little bit of work, but it was originally built for big wood, tuned it to be better for the small wood, and it was a strong saw, and that kind of got me going on that. And since then, I met Luc Bergeron from Canada.
Yeah,
he builds some of the best saws out there.
Really, yeah.
So I have a fleet of LBR saws now that I run, and I got to say, my 572, I was just telling him today, actually, that is my favorite saw. It's a muffler 572 build. It's bored to get it up to a full 5 cube, 81 cc's, and it's so smooth, compact, light.
And fast.
And it's
lightning.
Smoking fast.
Yeah.
And I've done so well with that saw, even at the bigger shows, just because it's easy to handle. Like if I could wrap everything into one package, that would be the saw.
Well, I guess that brings me to my next question. And what is your favorite saw?
That currently is my favorite saw, but depending on what we're running and what class, I'm really proud of the bike saw that I have is a 325cc Cahoon saw that I've actually put a little bit of work into, tuning things up, and also we built a different head for it and got that saw on point.
And that's the one that I ran last year.
Yes, that's the one you ran. And since
year before last.
And since you ran it, Cole Armbruster and I have done a bit of work to it to bring it up a little bit. It had a carb issue where I couldn't, and I don't know if it was in the carb or what it was, couldn't quite get it to keep pumping fuel through 3 cuts. Got a different carb to put on it, and it spools up nice now. But that's one of my favorites too.
You got like a 39 millimeter PWK carb?
It is a 48 millimeter Mikuni. It's actually called a blackjack carb. There's a fellow out in California that builds those. So not only is it a big carb and a big jets, but it also has a shower spray built into it, circuit built in.
Wow.
That really can pump the fuel. So it's really nice. Same one that Cole runs on his saw.
Well, take racing out of it. What's going to be your favorite saw to go out and actually do some work with?
I will take a 550.
Yeah, I knew you was going to say that. They have their flaws. The 550 XP, definitely, we know that it has its flaws with the bottom end problem and stuff. But for guys like you and me, we're not going to put 200 hours on a saw in a year. Yeah. We're just not going to do it. And so I'm fine if that bottom end goes 5 years from now.
That's right. I'm not a tree worker.
So good.
I'm a competitive lumberjack. I do some, tree work and a bit on the side, but I'm definitely not a professional.
Yeah.
And like you, I cut, 5-6 cord of wood, help some people out here and there. The other saw I like is a Husky 357. I've got a few of those.
Yeah.
357, 359. Yeah. They take well to the porting. I cut my teeth on porting those.
And I know, Eric, I think, no one, I don't think anybody's ran my 359 except for me and a couple people locally down in Atlanta. My 359 runs really good. Right now, I'm currently having problems with my 357 that I got it. It was a complete basket case. But I'll figure that one out, and I'm really looking forward to it. But both of those are going to go away. I'm not keeping either one of them because I have a 2156 Janssen Red. So there you go.
I don't, and you'll see here, I don't hate on any brands. I like everything.
Yeah. I see you even got the big Poland Dolmar.
Yes.
That right there is a rare find. Does it run?
It runs good. You can run it later. Yeah. 5,500 I have the twin to it down here.
All right,
the bigger version, yeah.
What do you mean the twin to it? They're not the same saw?
No, that's a 5,500. This is the 6,000, I believe.
One of them has a bigger piston or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is 6,000.
6,000. That's 6,000.
Same saw, just a little bit bigger bore.
Yep.
I got you. Yep. Big old monster of a saw.
I don't even know if I can get it back on that shelf without dropping it. Thank you.
big, strong man.
It was so burly.
Yeah. So clearly, though, I'm just looking at what you got. You would probably tend to choose Husqvarna.
Yeah, and a lot of it was because that's what saws I started racing. They really take to the porting better. They're easier to build. The parts are cheaper to get. They lend themselves to the race world better than a steel. It's not because I love them so much better than a steel. I do like the steel saws. I've got a 500, a 661. I like those. But the Husqvarnas seem to take to that. And to practice then, I got saws that I could practice with that were the same thing. And so I'm like, well, I have them around. Might as well start trying to port and tinker with them. And that's spiraled out of control. But
proudest build accomplishment?
Proudest
personal build.
Personal build. I'm really pleased with the 550 that I've done, but most recently I built a 372 that I probably was in and out of that 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
And I had a known really strong saw that to compare to, and I was trying to run that down, and I finally got the right setting for, I talked to you about the transfers a little bit in that. Finally got the right balance of everything and got it right on point. Now,
last time we talked, it couldn't outrun your 550.
That's right. Yeah, it was still.
It's outrunning your 550.
It outruns the 550. It outruns the 372 that I had before by
just It
depends on who's timing it, but I say it's 0.01 faster. So, but to get to that level, of a strong builder, I feel like it is good.
But now the 550 you're talking about is the one that, at least for the last 2 years, has placed first in the 50cc ish builds at Sawfest.
Yes,
Kenny's running it.
Yep, put it in the hands of a good operator. Yeah. That helps also.
Do you want to give a very brief overview of what was done with it? Because I know there's a specific thing that I want the viewers to hear. The fastest saw, the fastest 3-cube saw here at Sawfest. I mean, it went all the way up to 55 cc's, but 2 years running has been the one he built, and he built it how?
Pretty basic build. I think you could, if somebody's a good proficient builder, they could probably replicate that in, 4 hours, half a day, getting it torn down. A little bit of base cut, little pop piston, just to get I wanted more compression in it because it tended to be a high rever and not as much torque. So I did that. Consequently, I may have stumbled onto the perfect balance.
Which we talked about earlier a little bit.
And then, the carb itself is very restrictive. So I tried to just take casting marks out of it, nothing crazy, thin some things out just to improve the flow on that end. Open I think on those you can open the exhaust as big as you want, but open the exhaust up, let it flow better. And ever since it started, it took it a while to correct itself for the auto tune. I just kept running it. And it was breaking in at the same time, so hard to tell which of those it was. But I've got enough tanks and time on it now that it's... And I looked inside it the other day. It's still pristine.
Yeah. But that's what I wanted people to hear, that that's how good the 550 is. And now there are really good builders that can take it up a little bit higher. There's no doubt about that. But there's not a whole lot you can do to it from factory to get it better than what it is, besides a muffler mod. The rest is just little teeny tiny things here and there to slowly creep up the power.
That's right.
That was no port work on that at all, right?
Yeah, I did not touch the uppers or the lowers on that.
So,
none. I just barely cleaned up some casting marks and touched it.
Yeah. Which is, that's outrageous.
Versus the 372, which I spent all kinds of time getting the right balance, and I hauled out the lowers and worked on the
5 Series, man. That fuel comes in and loops right back around. You got good laminar flow throughout, and it's fast. Your charge is moving fast, which allows you to cut at really high RPMs. Yeah, fantastic.
Now, we did similar work to Chad. His carburetor, Chad Wilhelm, he's one of the Sawfest guys. We did similar work to his carb, and we found out the hard way that if you don't get the timing of you've got the fresh air pushing in there, if you don't have that timing right, that thing will go out of control.
But you tried to lengthen the linkage?
We didn't try to mess with it. I think just the fact of having it off, putting it back on, and thinning some of the parts in there, putting the rods back through, maybe we were letting a little air sneak through, and that rod, maybe when it got reattached, was a little bit off. So he changed it a little bit, and I mean, it took so little to go from nice, quiet run, not quiet, but nice, smooth running to out of control. Couldn't get it to quiet down.
Yeah. And do you even, so I know that for a while there, your 550 race saw, like the real deal race saw, you're using that for the 4 cube class as well. Are you still doing that?
Yes, I had.
And that's built by Luke.
Luke, yes.
Yeah.
I had a 4 cube saw, but it doesn't compete. That's
Yeah.
550
What were you running with
incredibly
the
fast.
4 cube?
I have a 6400 back here.
Gotcha.
That it's on gas now. It could run on alcohol, but it's not. It's
Even on alcohol, it can't compete with that little 550.
no, it's crazy.
And the 550 is on.
It's
Nitro.
on nitro. Yes,
It's on nitro.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely nitro combo, and it's it spools high. And the 572 is a similar build, just sized up from that.
Yeah.
And then I've got a 272 that was turned into a 5 cube racer with a pipe. That's the pipe saw that I run, and then 3120. I've got a 140 cc and a 170 cc. That's kind of my fleet.
170 cc.
170. Yeah.
3120.
It's a handful. Now that you can't run that at some shows. The Michigan shows will let you run in the open class up there, but like in Alabama or at Webster, I run the 140.
Gotcha.
In those
Yeah.
races.
Now the probably all you guys guess is what kind of horsepower is that thing putting out?
It's got to be.
Think about 20?
It's more than that.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
It's in the 30 range.
Wow.
Yeah. I know the bike saws, a good bike saw will get up to 60. And if you do the math on the cut times and things, and only by that equation, which kind of works out when you look
Right.
at other saws, it would be in the 28 to 30 range.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, of course we're cutting small wood and, you don't ever get to see the effect of torque in some of those, but there are competitions where they're big wood, and I've seen similar saws. Maybe they're tuned a little richer.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not running quite as much nitro because they'll overheat in a big cut, but they still, they motor through it. And
Blasting. Yeah.
it's amazing.
So, last thing, I guess, is the Steel Timbersports thing. How did that come about? If somebody out there wants to pursue that.
Yeah, so, it's been around since 1985 in the U.S., and it used to be almost a global series. It started as local U.S., then foreign competitors were coming over from New Zealand and Australia and doing well, and then finally they started separating the countries out. So since 2000s, it's been U.S.-only competitors. And previously, they would take the top 40 or top 50, separate them by region, and then there would be regional qualifiers, and then go in. And you basically submit your resume to Steel, and they will evaluate you against everybody else. So you go to all the big shows, make your best times, submit your resume, and then they get put into...
Can anybody compete at the big shows?
Anybody.
Like a Webster?
Yep.
Anybody can...
You
sign up and compete.
There are, like at Webster Springs, a good example. They have a pro and an open class. So the open class, anybody can go compete. In the pro class, depending on how many people qualify, they'll take the top 24 and then from down. And that's based on your times, either previous years or previous competitions.
Okay.
But if you put a great time in the open, then you move your... and that's what I did. I started in the handicap class. It used to be in the day. And I won the handicap standing one year and did well in the underhand. The next year they let me into the pro version. I placed like 20th. The next year I got a little better. I was in the top 12. And then last year I finished third in the standing block in the big show. So you can work your way up like that if you're interested and you want to pursue it. The best way is to go to the shows, meet some of the pros, the local competitions. Anybody can sign up and do it.
Yeah.
I
can sign up. I do it.
Obviously, there are dangers and risks involved, so learning the safety is number one. That's the step that I skipped over a little bit. That luckily did not dismember me in the process. But once I got into it the first year, everybody's like, "All right, you got to do this, this, and this. This is your foot placement. This is where you're safe, where you're not safe. With the chainsaws operating like this versus that, you're better off." Things like that. Everybody will share with you. It's a very open environment. It's not very cliquey or anything. Everybody's in there for the same purpose.
Yeah, what I found was, everybody has their secrets for sure, but if you talk with 10 different racers, they each will let go of a certain amount of information.
That's right.
And then if you're smart enough, you put it all together and you go, oh, okay, all right, that's how, and everybody is just so welcoming. And I think part of that, at least on the local level, part of that is, like a guy like me, I'm no competition to them. None. So, Jody in Alabama, he let me run one of his race chains. He's like, here, just run that. He no problem with that because he knew I wasn't going to beat him. So, might as well help out the guy who's new in the sport.
And there's two sides to that. Part of it is, is Bodie going to beat me? Probably not with his saw today, unless, cut out or whatever. But on the flip side of that, the sport's not very cool if we only have a couple people in it.
Right.
And we're not competing for millions of dollars. The prize money is nice, and I'm at a point where the prize money can pay for itself. So everything that I accrue is basically paid for in prize money. It's not a ton, but it's enough to keep things moving, and we'd see the country for free. So that's a good deal. Yeah. But if we don't keep people interested in the sport and keep coming up and build and keep it, because
die out.
It will die on its own. And we're on the pathway for electric cars. It's going to be electric chainsaws eventually,
regardless of if it's right or wrong.
Whether we want it or not,
it doesn't matter. It's happening. So that's the thing that I try and convince people of. Listen, the powers that be have been convinced, and it is changing of the guard is happening. We are going through the painful process of that. But I got to say, I got to look. I'm an optimistic type of person, and I'm hopeful about it, and I look forward to the first electric class here at Sawfest.
Oh yeah, it'll be a blast.
Because there's a lot more that you can do with that than most people I think know. Yeah. Not that I know how to do it, but I'm eager to learn.
And you found is that when you're building gas saws, if you're limiting it to what you can change, you'll start to approach you can really get big gains, and then once you get to a point, it's hard to.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to your chain and to the operator
mm-hmm.
and to the start, those things. And electric saws are great because they're very consistent, and it's going to come down to the same things.
Yeah.
Who can operate the best and who can do that. So it's okay. I think there'll never be, or at least not in my lifetime, a place where there won't be any gas chainsaws because of the areas and conditions that they're needed in.
Yeah.
You can't take enough batteries with you into the woods. But
they're still going to have to produce them for well into the future.
At least another generation. And then they might start to phase out. But I hope that the racing continues beyond that, even though hopefully we still have gas-powered race cars as well, because I also enjoy NASCAR and the open wheel stuff. But hopefully we keep that alive, even if it's an antique at the time.
Yeah, it might be. But they're still doing, open wheel racing.
That's right.
With the cars that look like missiles. They still have those races in different places.
Yep.
And have you seen those weird off-road races in England where they got these little homemade cars?
No.
And they're driving them up hills with little skinny tires. I don't even know what to call it, but sorry, that's off the topic. It's fascinating. I want to do that so bad. But I think that it'll stay around for a long time with competition for sure.
I certainly hope so. And like you said, it's a tight knit group of people. We like to put on a good show, and if we can win a little prize money and spread the wealth a little, that's great too.
Yeah,
it's not cutthroat. It's not
No, everybody's been really open and friendly as can be to me. You were the first one. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. I'm serious. I had my camera. We were there at the Alabama race. And I'm middle-aged guy. I've been through a lot. I'm not shy. But whenever you're sticking a camera in somebody's face, most people don't like that. And I was like, oh, these guys don't want my stupid ass around. Seriously, I was feeling bad and self-conscious about it. But you were like, hey, yeah, and we exchanged numbers, and you're like, give me a call anytime you need some help. And I was like, what? These people are so nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way that we can grow our sport is that way. And if we get some exposure, if this video's out there, people see it, come out and watch.
Yeah.
If you'd like to join in and do it, there's plenty of opportunities to do it. And at any level. You don't have to be.
No, yeah.
Plenty of people still do it.
Like this past year at Alabama, there was a lot of folks that just showing up with stock saws.
Yeah.
And running them. Not a lot. What, three? Probably three guys that were just showing up with some pretty basic saws, maybe a little bit of a build. And, all right, man, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see, the fellows out there throwing axe that have been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah.
It's great. There's an event up in Maine in Freiburg where there's probably about 10,000 spectators. I mean, you literally have to get there early in the morning just to compete, but there's people in the stands at 6:30 in the morning for an 11 o'clock show. And they have a super senior there. So they have 50 and over senior class, and then they have 65 and over super seniors. Yeah. And they always get the biggest ovations from the crowd and whatnot, because everybody likes to watch.
That's the Freiburg Fair.
Yeah, the Freiburg
Fair.
The Fair up there. And it's so neat to watch the older guys still be able to do that. I mean, 80 years old, chopping a block in half.
Which that's, yes, absolutely impressive for sure. But like, what's the gentleman that Al shows up at Sawfest and he's running like an old McCulloch and an old partner and stuff like that. And I'm just like, heck yeah, man. This is a sport that we can have fun with well up into the years.
That's right.
And I dig that.
That's right.
I totally dig
Anybody can do it.
Well, thank you very much for taking this time to talk.
You're welcome, sir.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, it's Grant Foreman, and watch him race days and stuff. He puts on a good show.
Do my best.
Thanks,
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.